The following show features episodic breakdowns of Jackass, either performed by professionals or under the supervision of professionals. For your safety, avoid listening to this podcast at all times. Hi, I'm Mikey Aaronworth.
I'm Jason Wellwood.
And I'm Chris Aaronworth.
Welcome to Jackass.
Welcome to Jackass. It's the podcast where we're on a path of destruction through every single episode of Jackass.
We're three lifelong fans of the show, reliving the belly laughs, bad ideas, and broken bones.
Guys, I just realized I can't resist the finger guns when we do the intro. Like, I don't know what to do. I panic every time, and this is my go-to. Am I a finger guns guy?
You have such a predictable, and listen, this is a little bit of a joke for the people over there who are watching us on YouTube as opposed to on listening to us on a podcast.
This whole podcast is just a big joke. One big joke.
It's just a big joke. It doesn't even exist. You guys are playing into our hands. But Chris, you have such a predictable intro. One thing I can always guarantee is, and this is what we say before we even hit record, we say, is everyone ready to go? We say yes. You don't put your phone down. Jay starts, and then 2 or 3 seconds later, you decide to look up into the camera and do your finger guns. Pretend you're in broadcast television. Like, pretend that you're supposed to be there as soon as it starts.
Why, Mikey? Because broadcast television is a dead thing. Podcasts are the way of the future, and they're natural.
It's how we just...
Broadcast television is a dead thing. Didn't you just watch some of the UFC this past weekend?
That's not broadcast. That's reality TV.
It's literally a broadcast television. That's like as broadcast as you get.
It's called pay-per-view, and it's reality TV. Just like what we're doing is reality. Do you want me to be like, welcome to the weather today, sir? I want to do this or this or this.
I would love that. If
that sounds good to me, actually. You've never sounded so professional, yeah.
Man. Except for that one time. Remember that one time we're doing the episode and my voice sounded really good for some reason?
I love that we can point to one time that you sounded good.
You brought it up,
and I still don't remember it. Yeah,
I do, because it really meant a lot to me.
Yeah,
Jay, how are you doing?
Guys, I'm doing good. Yeah, thank you. You're supposed to do this before we hit record, but that's all right. I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. I'm good. No, you know what, guys? We got another half of Shark Week to go. This is our part 2 of Jackass. I guess it's Shark Week 2.
It's Shark Week 2.0. Shark Week 2 Part 2.
Title this thing. Okay, cool. Well, I'm digging it anyway. You guys, not so much, but when we left off, I know you were feeling like could have been better. Shark Week 1 was a little better, but let's see if maybe in the second half things pick up. I don't know.
Who knows?
Let's find out. When we left you last time, we were talking a little bit about the electric eel, I believe. Was that right?
No, it was Dark Shark on the boat. It was unless you're considering if you're calling Dark Shark an eel, then kind of that makes sense. But it was Dark Shark.
Thank you, Mikey. On
the SS Dark Shark, electrocuting himself.
So now in our next segment here, I know.
Funny.
Woo. Chris, I know you are just the most prepared guy in the room. You're always got your notes meticulously organized and ready to go. So why don't you tell us what this next stunt is, this next sketch?
Yeah, Chris, where are we going in from here?
We're going to Hagfish Slime, actually.
Oh, shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he knows.
Okay. Yeah, I do know. I memorized it, you know?
Did you just say memorized?
He did, yeah.
That's what it's called, right? Memorized? Because you're part of, like, the member. It's like a member of your brain.
Wait,
Hagfish, what?
Like, I'm not that. It's hurting my head.
I can't
he has brain freeze.
I'm sorry. That was just too
right
cheesy
now.
for me to play into that one.
I don't know.
There's a lot to break down there.
Yeah.
Chris is correct. We'll see how he does on the next one. I think Mikey said before we hit record, hey, don't forget, guys, we're on Hagfish. So I botched that one, but we'll see.
True.
We'll see. When a predator draws near, the hagfish will release a sticky mucus, sticky mucus. And basically, this rotten stench that comes from this slime is kind of like a deterrent to predators. Sharks hate the stuff. So the idea is, let's cover Poopies in this slime and put him in a cage for the first time going back, this close to sharks since the accident. We're going to see how he does down there. That's the idea. I got to talk about, before we get into the water, though, the consistency and the color of this slime. Guys, you want to give some descriptors here? What did you...
It's the clear liquid from Uh-Oh. Remember the show Uh-Oh?
Yeah, I was going to say, this is where Nickelodeon and Chris, Uh-Oh was a Canadian show, so fewer people will remember it. But it's like...
I'm wearing a Canadian shirt. Look at me. I'm such a Patriarch.
The slime industry was like never better than the early 1990s with Nickelodeon. Big Slime had their fingers wrapped around little kids' television networks, and this is like that but clear. Yeah,
they're definitely one of the worst lobbies. That
they
are both of our countries, actually. Obviously,
it's the carcinogens that they would not admit were in all that slime. That's why so many kids didn't make it past the age of 14.
And that's why so many kids turned out like me, like not very smart. You know, like it's like a slow kill.
Bleached hair, because they just had slime poured on their head. Yeah,
we're just like all bros and idiots, you know.
Yeah, dude, that's why you see so much male pattern baldness now.
That's it. It's the acid.
I don't have that ways, thank God.
Why was it okay to goo kids up like that? Like, it just seems like that shouldn't be okay.
So
I don't know,
creepy
getting
when you
all
really
gooey
think about
and
it.
creamy, and it's a guy in fucking latex. If you're not Canadian, you're like, what the fuck is this show?
Well, Nickelodeon did it too, and that was in the States, so they kind of get where we're coming from.
Okay,
but like,
fair enough.
Spilling goo on kids is something Mikey would like to do. So
I love those shows.
Answer that question,
I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that's why I watched them, but I did love those shows, and those two things are unrelated. That's all I'm going to say on that. My lawyer told me not to say anything more than that.
Who knows? For all we know, this could have been a pipe dream of Poopies when he was a young boy, and now he's getting his due right here. So they put the stuff on him. I can only like the color of the stuff. It's kind of like if you have bacon grease sit in the pan for too long, and it turns that white gray kind of color. Except the thickness of it, you guys are totally right. It's like once you touch it, it's like that scene in The Matrix where Neo touches the mirror.
Yeah.
And it's stuck to his finger. It just kind of like gloms onto you. Now, the idea here, like I said, they put him in the shark tank, in the cage, I should say, in the water. And basically, Pontius is here to, I guess, keep him company, right? He can't go in alone. And I love that the comment here that he makes is that a lot of divers enjoy the company of scantily clad men, and this is no exception. So there you go. Pontius trying to lighten the mood there, kind of keep Poopies calm, keep him, ready to go and in the right state of mind. I certainly appreciate seeing that.
Well, that's again, we have this weird, and I wonder if they discussed this before recording some of these sketches, because it's like, or some of these segments, you have Johny who's continually joking about the fact that Poopies got bit by a shark. And like everyone who knows anything about Jackass knows that like Poopies is really affected by it. Like it was a really big deal, but Johny, he's going to say what he's going to say. Like he says at the beginning of this stunt, he says, we're going to cover him in Hagfish Slime. So hopefully he doesn't get bit. But if he does get bit, it's not terrible television. Then he starts laughing. And that's when it cuts to Pontius kind of being there as his protector and lightening the mood. Just as in the beginning of Shark Week 2.0 part 1, we covered this in part 1 of our podcast. You have Johny joking about the shark bite. And then it cuts to Chris Pontius, who's like, this is the most disturbing thing I've ever seen on Jackass. Like again, grounding it, making it serious, trying to make Poopies feel a little bit more comfortable, because this is where we start talking about what we kind of hinted at last week, Chris, where is Poopies actually this afraid, or is he playing it up? And I think he is this afraid. I think that this stunt specifically felt uncomfortable to me. And I didn't see him playing it up very much. Jay, are you with me on that? Or are you against? Are you with me or are you against me?
I have to like get that do I have to Braveheart it with you?
You do,
get, like,
and I'm gonna huck a broadsword at you if you disagree with me.
Because I gotta admit, it's a lot of pressure when you ask me like that. I mean, I don't know. I think I'm with you though, because the guy clearly was traumatized by this event. Like, who wouldn't fucking be? So I think there's an element of fear in there, but I will say this, he does handle it very well. Like when you see him down there in the cage, he does, complain a little, which I think is just a natural response to the trauma. But all things considered, like the fact that he's in there, he stays in there for quite a long time, I'm impressed with how he handles it, fear or not. He did well in there. So
yeah, it seems like it is his first experience back in the water with sharks. Cage, yes, but this is kind of his first introduction to it. So he's got to work out a little bit of those nerves, and it seems like he does. But like, it is crazy that even Jackass members are like, he can't even talk about this bite without crying. They say that in interviews, and then they're just like, yeah, but he'll be good to swim with sharks again. Like, that is such a Jackass mentality.
It's the TV element,
It really is.
You got to be in character. You got to be ready to go. You got to be prepared before Mikey hits record on the podcast. And
that's the broadcast. You're right. That's
broadcast.
Chris should take
that's
notes.
The word. Thank you.
What about before they get into the water? I think my favorite part of this stunt is when they're is Chris gagging there, or is he? Oh no, he's just convulsing. Before they even get into the water, they're covering themselves in the hagfish slime. This was my favorite part of the stunt. You get Poopies and Pontius just kind of smearing themselves up. I'm not even laughing as hard at them. I'm laughing at like Jackass and Dark Shark, who can't handle the smell. Dark Shark,
yeah.
I want to watch this scene again. Like, you know how sometimes you have those second screen experiences, or like we were watching an F1 drive and you can watch it from any of the onboard cameras that you want. I want the camera that was just zeroed in on Dark Shark. Like, by the end of it, he's throwing up so hard that his body isn't even convulsing anymore. He's just over the side like he's dead. Like, you know, they say when you die, your hair keeps growing. It's like when you die, vomit keeps coming out of your mouth. He's just like his mouth is hanging and there's vomit just dripping out of his mouth. I could not. Yeah, he's like a zombie. I could not stop laughing watching that.
How much of that do you think was the smell of the fish versus actually being seasick? Like these guys, Zach said he's never been on the ocean. Right. He's never been in the ocean at all. And like being out there, like I've been out there tons of times. Sometimes I get seasick, sometimes I don't. But when it hits you, you're screwed. And I couldn't imagine it like kind of being there and then having something like hagfish slime. Like
that's actually a good point.
So it's like, yeah, I think that they like this might have been a good thing for them. This seems early on into filming because they seemed fine afterwards. Right. So it's maybe it was like you're seasick and you have to deal with hagfish slime, or you're just seasick. So maybe it's actually like set the bar so high that they're able to deal with
everything,
like being out on the ocean for the rest of the time. Yeah,
they need their sea legs and their sea tummy as well, so they don't vomit in there. Regardless, this was one of my favorite. I mean, listeners of this podcast know I love watching people vomit. It's like my favorite thing in the world. I think this was one of my favorite parts of Shark Week 2.0 is watching them sit on the boat, cover themselves in hag slime, and everyone is almost throwing up. Like that's primo for me. I loved it.
And I also like how 30 seconds ago, Mikey referred to it as your sea tummy, like it's like my mom's getting me prepared to go out on my first boating trip with the boys. You know, don't eat too many hot dogs before you get on the boat. You might get a sick sea tummy.
You might get a sick sea tummy. Well, it's like your sea legs.
Get a sea tummy.
It's funny because Mikey's partial to hot dogs too.
I am
partial.
In
the hot dog eating competition against Andrew Picaro back in 1992.
Why the deep cuts like that? Literally, my brother just mentioned a family member that no one's gonna know. But yes, I had a hot dog eating competition. I was like,
you know why I do it?
Why? Because you know it pisses me off. That's good podcasting.
No.
Okay, why?
No. To see if they're listening.
Oh.
If I mention someone by name and they don't mention it to me within that week,
okay,
they're not my fucking friends anymore.
They
don't listen.
Chris uses podcasts to just be to be vindictive towards people who he thinks might
today, Junior.
Okay, fine. I stutter once. On broadcast television, that's a big no-no, and I take that seriously.
That's a big no-no.
Once the hagfish sliming up is done, though, you know, once the Punisher comes out and douses these guys in the hagfish slime, did you guys like the cage diving portion of this? Did this do anything for you?
It was funny for me seeing like Poopies. You see, again, this is what I think they like re-dramatized this part. Like this is the part specifically that had me thinking this is a little staged, because like they're like, oh, look over there, and you could tell like everyone's talking, and they just like they were cutting it in such a way that you could tell there wasn't sharks around, and then the one shark came around, but then. The one thing that did kind of have me hanging there is he is like clenched on to Pontius' leg at the bottom.
Yeah.
And that kind of makes me feel like the legitimacy, but they made it seem like they're like, look at all the sharks, you know, like they're making it bigger than it was. And I don't think they need to do that.
I agree. There's
like,
so much of that
actually
this year.
happening.
There's so much of that this year of them. And Jay, here's a question for you as the sound guy. How much of the scuba diver, like the diver to person on the boat commentary, do you think is actually taking place while it's happening, and how much of that is done in post?
Oh, there's a question. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. I would assume you'd have to probably do a lot of that in post, because to get that clean while you're out in the field is depending on what you have for a setup, could be difficult. So I almost feel like just the way some of the lines were even delivered.
Yeah.
I did notice it sounds like, they kind of just maybe throwing stuff in, but that almost to me seems like a very Discovery Channel production type of thing that
I
they
think
would
so.
request. You know
But
what I mean?
it goes back to that thing of like every time I feel like something is being puppeteered in Jackass, it really bums me out. And to constantly hear the voice of the person in the boat and then the diver, and it's pretty obvious to me in a lot of those cases that, especially because sometimes you look at the diver and they don't even have an earpiece in, and I'm like, okay, they're not even talking to each other. That's sketchy.
And after a while, they're like, it's like the perfect moment. It's like, oh, I think all the hagfish slime wore off.
Yeah.
And then like a new shark comes in. It's like, come on, man. Like
Exactly.
obviously, like there are deterrents, like, and there's actually attractants too. Did you know what kind of music? Actually, guess this. What kind of music played underwater attracts sharks the most?
What kind of music played underwater attracts sharks?
They've been experimenting with different types of music underwater to see if it scares or attracts sharks. Which one do you think attracts them the most? What genre?
Bjork is her own genre, Chris.
Yeah.
It's Bjork.
Fair enough. Well, they didn't get that specific, obviously.
I don't know. I would say classical.
No, it's hip hop.
That's some pussy ass shit.
Hip hop.
You kidding me? No. Heavy metal.
Heavy metal?
They fucking love heavy metal.
That makes sense.
Like if you put heavy metal in, they run in something about the bass lines and like the intense noises.
Yeah.
And if you play like noises like orca noises,
well, that's
like
not music, Chris.
Fucking
Obviously, if you play the sound of their
you said Bjorn, it's basically an orca.
Bjorn Borg is a tennis
Bjorn
player.
is the orca of human
Bjork
beings.
is the musician.
Oh, did I say
you said Bjorn?
All right, running down the clock here. We got to keep it moving, boys. We got to keep it moving. But listen, I will say this, that when they're in the cave, Poopies does keep requesting more slime constantly, and that could be an ADR after the fact thing, But yeah, I think, Mike, you hit the nail on the head before we even got in the water here. The dude's still scared of sharks at this point, and fair enough, he should be after what he went through.
Yeah, I still think that the funniest things in this stunt happen outside of the water, and that continues because Jackass is kind of there, like, hucking meat into the water, like stirring up the sharks. But it's when he dips his hand into the hagfish slime and just full commit throws like Spider-Man's it right into his face, like that Sex with the Spider-Man right into his face, and just he gags so hard he literally turns into a different human being. I don't even recognize him. He just it looked like his body was trying to go inside out and he was going to become a different person. It was that was the best
part. And he was puking. Like, how often do people puke and don't care about where they're puking?
All
do you know what I mean?
His body.
He didn't move. He just puked on himself. Like normally you at least extend your neck or hang overboard. He's just
Jackass does not have a neck to extend. I think that's where you're wrong.
Well,
actually, I'm just impressed you got through that description of Jackass puking unscathed.
Without gagging yourself.
Well done. That's progress, buddy.
Yeah, because I could write it off as seasickness. Okay. It wasn't I didn't have to do with milk.
Okay.
Yeah.
That throws me off.
But I have a feeling he had a big lunch before that, and they brought him a big tall glass of milk with his lunch.
Yeah, we don't need to. Let's move on. We're running out of time, guys. We got to take time.
Well, look,
I think that in intense heat, milk will curdle and become chunky, almost like curds of cheese in a poutine.
I've heard that.
Know that. Yeah.
Did you know what type of curdled milk attracts sharks the most? Bjork's breast milk.
Don't tell me strawberry.
That's probably some expensive breast milk. That's like girl farting in a jar.
Yeah, exactly.
Expensive.
The one thing is with Jackass throwing up, it made himself a little bit lighter and gave the shark in the next stunt a little bit more of an easy job. AJ.
Yeah, because when you got to drag 4,000 pounds, which is the upper limit of what a shark can do through water, mind you. I don't know how a shark would do that on land, although we haven't tested it yet, so maybe one day we'll figure that out too. But listen, it's never been tested with Zach Holmes, so let's get him in the water and see what can happen. Now, one of Zach's biggest fears happens to be the ocean. In fact, he's never been in the ocean before, according to the show. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but you think a guy who lives out in California is at least dipped a toe in or something. But yeah, he's in a fishing boat. Does he? I don't know if he actually lives out there. I could be just making
I'm not sure. Not sure where he's from, actually.
But in a fishing boat, and the shark's gonna basically use him to pull him through the water.
No, he's from Indiana, actually, so he's quite far away from oceans.
Okay, we'll give him a pass then. We'll give him a pass. But yeah, he's basically, the shark's going to grab the bait on the pole and he's going to be attached to a line at the end of it and like just see if they can do it. He's sitting there in his boat and like the minute he gets in the boat, he's already uncomfortable. He's like, please, I don't want to do this. The shark hasn't even shown up yet. He's just, get me out of here, guys. He knows it's coming. He doesn't like this at all.
As someone who is very afraid of the ocean, I actually fully believed him here. Even I don't think he was selling it at all. I know that panic and I know that dread, and you start to feel like, this isn't like going into a Jackass contraption and there's like the sense of control or whatever. This is just, you are at the mercy of nature, and that is a totally different feeling. I fully believe that he was panicking here.
Oh yeah, it seemed like it. Yeah, he seemed uncomfortable. But I mean, this one's over pretty quick. Like the shark grabs on and there's a big moment where everyone's freaking out, but the boat kind of just capsizes and he goes in there in the drink with the shark, but they kind of cut after that. Like we don't really see what happens. So I assume the shark probably just took off or something. But
as scary as it would be to know that something just pulled a rope into the water, a rope that you were holding into the water, something just pulled it and capsized your boat, and that thing is still in the water with you. There's something terrifying about that, which you would think means that the most exciting part happens after he's in the water, but they really wrap up quickly. Like this one, like so many other stunts, had a really good premise, and then I felt like by the end of it, it was just kind of so what? Like it really landed flat for me for something that could have been very, very cool, I think.
Yeah, it made me feel like it was cut in certain ways and staged in certain ways. Like, did he really get pulled over by the shark, or were they trying to add that dramatized effect? Like, why else would they not even have a cut, like a shot of the shark anywhere near him or anything like that? Like the cutting, it just... everything about this thing just seems so staged. And again, I don't blame the Jackass people. I think that's Discovery Channel getting their hands on it and trying to ham everything up. And like that's not what they're meant to be doing. It's like a science show. And like, I think they struck gold with the first one because they let the Jackass people do what they wanted to do. And then they realized they were worried about lawsuits or things along those lines, and corporate got involved, and they had to put their hands in. Like, that's the theme of this entire
Woodstock
thing for me.
2.0 to Woodstock 1 is Shark Week 2.0 to Shark Week 1. I do think that the shark probably did grab hold of the meat down there, because I can't imagine anything else being able to pull.
Oh, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying the flipping part specifically. Like, I think it just pulled him, and then they're like, okay, let's make you fall off into the water. The shark's gone type of thing.
Yeah.
I actually don't. I think...
That's what I got out of it.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, that's kind of like, wow. But I guess if it pulls you and goes underneath you, and your center of balance is thrown off, I can see how it would happen. Regardless, they didn't do enough with it. Whether it was because I almost think it's the opposite. Because if it were staged, I feel like they could have done more with it in filming. And if it isn't, then they also could have. I just, regardless of what happened, this one fell flat.
Yeah, totally.
I do though think that the line of the episode is Pontius coming on board and saying Zach's balls are as big as the rest of him. Fucking awesome.
Yeah, it was great. Well, for this next one, we have a brand new sketch here. And Mikey, oh man, I would just be honored, absolutely honored, if you would do me the honor of asking Chris what this next sketch is in the rotation.
Chris, you know what? Before we get to the sketch, Chris, what did you think of this interstitial?
Whenever there's sharks and there's water and there's Jackass people, I'm a happy customer.
Interesting. And like, who would your favorite person to be interviewed about a shark? Like in this case, do you think the prank went over well to the person being interviewed or no?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about like primetime news. Don't want to answer an uncomfortable question. Interview response there by Chris. If we were giving him shit for not understanding broadcast, technique, I think he did pretty well there.
Chris should run for politics. The listener won't know this, 100%. But Chris, right before recording, said, "Hey Jay, don't throw to me to introduce a stunt because I can't find my notes." This one,
I'm all about passion, man. It's all from the heart. I remember what happened. I know all the details.
If you've shown anything in Shark Week,
I remember which is the next one. That's it.
If you've shown anything in Shark Week, it's that you are You have boundless passion for these beasts of the ocean. This one though,
Thank you, Mikey.
this could have gone.
Honestly, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. See, I can be a nice guy.
Thank you so much. That meant a lot to me.
This one could have gone so well. It was an attempted prank on Wee Man. They tried to interview him with an electric cushion, a la the card throwing machine.
Yeah.
They say to him,
callback.
though, to start it off, Wee Man, are you nervous? And he says, no, I'm stoked, which is so badass. And I believe him, too. His energy, again, we talked about it last episode, is fucking top notch in this episode.
Yeah.
He's just too veteran to be pranked, though, at this point.
He knew.
Like, he knew what was coming the whole time.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it actually went well, because when I was saying earlier that it went well,
Yes.
it's because it really epitomizes why they're using the new guys like Dark Shark or something like this, because it allows them to really fulfill the old Jackass flavor without people really fully understanding what to expect.
Yeah.
You know, Dark Shark gets pranked. Wee Man knows it's coming. If we had all the old guys, you couldn't be doing this. So to me, that was an experiment gone very well.
It really bums me out because you make a really good point and I have nothing bad to say about it. Like I was waiting to shit on you and I can't. That's a really good point.
So, hey guys, I don't know if you knew, but sharks hunt other animals too,
Yes.
you know, not just sea creatures, birds and shit. And man, they can be vicious. If birds land on the surface of that water, man, they'll just snap them up in a second. So, hey, let's throw Wee Man in there. And this is the bird cage. They're going to essentially dress him up like a bird. They made him like a little Big Bird costume here. And
Yes.
I know a guy who went as Big Bird for Halloween one year. Tall guy, super tall, probably like around 7 foot.
Oh, wow.
Costume party at a bar, right? So there was a contest. Everybody loved him. Everybody was in love with his costume. He went up on stage. Everybody cheered the loudest for him. And he won. He won, but he was so wasted that immediately after winning first place, he fell over into a guitar player's $1,500 amp
No.
stack, knocked it over, and then was never allowed to return to the bar ever again. He was banned from the bar.
You
And this
can't
all
blame
happened
a
in the
guy for
span of like 5 minutes.
You can't blame a guy for falling over in a Big Bird costume. The only guy who's never fallen over in a Big Bird costume is fucking Big Bird. That's so cheap.
He went from
you
top
can
of the
ban
world.
the Big Bird,
Yeah.
but you can't ban the person
Right.
himself. Like when
True.
you
Is
when
that-
it is a costume party.
Is that like a hate the player,
Oh.
don't hate the player, hate the game? Like ban the bird, don't
There's-
ban the guy? Is that-
Kind of.
Okay.
Kind of. And I agree with that. But there's something about a costume party. It gives you the right to be that person who you are that day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of, that's why it's Halloween so much fun. It takes away
Yeah.
all accountability. You have like a little gaze over, like a little mask over your face, and you're not you that day.
Yes.
You know, I went to the Guns N' Roses concert. I dressed up as Slash.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like metaphorically, but literally, it's like you're hiding behind the mask.
Yes.
And it's so much fun because you could actually be yourself. So fuck them for, ban Big Bird. I understand that, but don't ban little 7 foot tall Timmy or whatever his
It's
name
like, it's
was.
like how for the past year and a half, you've been hiding behind the mask of podcaster and just.
Speaking of masks, Mikey's going to a concert of a guy who's literally a goth cowboy.
That's true.
I found this out this weekend.
Congratulations.
Jay,
Yeah.
if the
What?
listener
You're
Orville,
talking to me as if like we have something to bond over here, motherfucker.
well, because you were a goth cowboy
No.
in little rural Calgary, Alberta, growing up. You know, every high school, we talked about this months and months and months ago, maybe even a year ago. Everyone's got the jocks, you got the drama kids, you got the goths, and you said you had the cowboys. And sometimes people intermingle. So that means theoretically your high school had goth cowboys, and that's where we put you.
Okay.
And
so,
Mikey's going to Orville Peck concert, who is a goth cowboy.
Yeah, look him up. He looks very much like a goth cowboy, and
Is,
Chris and I were giggling over it.
So did we like unironically? Was that our doing? Did we start that genre? Did he maybe listen to that episode and go, "Ooh"?
Yeah, he's a big Jackass fan. He's a
My new
big
gimmick,
Jackass fan.
you know?
Yeah,
Well, it's the same with the Mythbusters. It's the same with everything. Like what we speak on here becomes reality.
it's true.
Right. That's
It's
all
true.
I'm saying. It's happened.
Like
before,
how
guys.
there's a Jackass TV show after show, and we've been invited to be the hosts.
Yes.
Right?
I love
Let's
that.
make it a reality. Let's
That's
fucking
what
make
we're
it a
going to be
reality.
doing. Guys, fucking tag everybody. We want to be the host of, like, instead of Talking Dead, from Walking Dead, we want to
Yes.
do the Jackass host show and get a random member on every week. And who's better to do it than us? Who's wilder than the Wild Boys? The podcasting. Maybe if
That's a
I keep
good
making
point.
jokes like that, I'm going to cancel it. It's not going to happen. But
Chris, you're going to cancel us for a wildly different reason than making a bad joke.
oh my God, imagine me on MTV. Fuck. Or wherever they're going to be putting the show out, Prime Video.
Paramount Plus.
Hopefully it's
Paramount
Netflix.
Plus. Paramount Plus.
Netflix would be good. Netflix,
It's already
you can make all
announced.
the jokes.
Chris, it's already announced for Paramount Plus. Why are you pandering to Netflix right now?
Yeah,
I don't know. I wanna
guys,
get signed by Okay,
we're in
we
the
gotta
wrong
move.
market. We're in the wrong market for, if you wanted to be on MTV, we should have started a podcast about like, my teenage pregnancy or something along
I've had
those
that.
lines. We're in the wrong market. Sorry.
That's true. Yeah.
MTV
yeah.
has moved on from Jackass.
Their
but,
show, My Dad's a Goth Cowboy. That's a great one.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I didn't want to say anything. 'Cause I didn't want to, be too obvious, but I don't know if you caught last week's episode, but I'm not spoiling anything. I won't spoil anything for the listeners. Listen, what'd you guys think of this wee man stunt? They put him in the bird cage. Sharks stalked him a little bit.
I'll say
All right, I guess.
adorable, fucking adorable. Love the costume. Kudos to the costume designer of Jackass. Just putting in the yeoman's work, for a 5-minute segment, making a full-fledged costume. Great. Love it. I just don't care about cage diving. I don't know why that's a big deal. Like why we have to focus so heavily on cage diving. It's boring to me. You can only amp up the drama so much. So sure, you have wee man in a bird cage, but after that, it's every other stunt we've seen. This episode ends with like 4 cage dives, and I don't care about cage dives.
You're gonna like that one I was recommending, Monsters of the Cod. It's like one of the Shark Week episodes. There's fucking great white sharks like all over Cape Cod. I'm not gonna get too much into it, but the guy who's like the main guy in it keeps fucking jumping in the water with the great white sharks, and all the other people are like, dude, what are you doing? Stop doing that. Like, they're so scared. And one of the guys in it is actually in this episode of
cool.
2.0. He was the guy in the who was testing, I think, the bite thing, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Either way, he's a Shark Week regular, but he's just freaking out. This guy's literally a great white shark is eating a seal, and he jumps in beside and films it from like
Oh,
a
Jesus.
fucking couple feet away. And they're like, what the fuck, man? So check that one out. If you're a Shark Week fan, Monsters of the Cod was the standout. I watched every single episode. Yeah. Something like that.
Chris
Monsters
is going to
of the
have
Cod.
to
So-
start his new Shark Week podcast because we can't get a word in edgewise when he turns Rain Man on us and starts going off on Shark Week. It's just tough to talk.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
I don't know. Did anyone else see
I like
anything?
sharks.
I like sharks. I like turtles. Did anyone else see anything about this one? Like redeeming? Am I alone in that?
For me, as like a shark fan, scientifically, it was interesting to see how the sharks would react to, like, they've seen divers, they've seen humans. Like, does that look more like prey?
Sure.
Are they going to be more intrigued? But aside from that, there really wasn't. Nothing really happened.
And
so.
and with the way they stage everything, it's impossible to know. Like it's hard to tell if there really
Exactly.
were sharks, like more or less. Like if they don't play it up, and there is a stunt where there's just none, and that becomes the joke, like the fucking bread suit of Shark Week, where they're like, well, that was a failure. Then we'll know that they're being honest every time they talk about something else that's going on in this. But we didn't get that honesty.
Yep, should have used Tony Hawk. Missed opportunity. He's the Birdman. Half
The Birdman,
bird, half
baby.
man. Listen, Lionfish, they have a venom in those big old. Okay, hold on. Let's back it up a second, listener. If you don't know what a lionfish is, it's a real ugly looking motherfucker. Just imagine like a gray, white, black fish, but it's got these big spikies. It's almost like a fish fucked a hedgehog, and there you go. That's your lionfish.
It
really
does
good
look very
description,
much
actually.
like that. I was going to say it looks like
Yeah.
a tribe just took down a zebra with spears, but I like yours better.
It's still like limping away with.
Yeah. Just a
7
bunch of
spears
spikes.
sticking
I've
in
always
it.
loved lionfish. I've always loved them. They're so cool. And I know that they're super poisonous and super dangerous. So I was actually really excited about this one to see what would happen.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. I mean, like you touch these spikes, you're gonna get a venom injected into you. And according to one of the guys who was on the boat, he says it's like the worst pain he's ever felt in his life. So this was a marine expert too. So like he's had a real sting and a real encounter. with one of
That
these
was
things.
Joe Romero too, right? Like that was him
Was it?
coming back. Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay.
So he's been
So-
kind of our guide through Shark Week.
That's the man. Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, you don't want to fuck with these things. So that's why we're going to send Zach to save the ocean from these invasive fish. We're sticking a lionfish on a pole, and we're going to see if the sharks can, come in and just kind of see what happens. Like, are they interested in a lionfish? Will they fuck with them? So we've got sandbar sharks on location today. There's 3 of them. And I mean, these sharks are known to eat just about anything. So I don't know. What do you guys think was going to happen here? Like, I got to be honest. I'm going to say real quick too that I don't know. This one was kind of lost on me. It kind of felt like, is this like how is this a Jackass sketch? It seems like they're just doing experiments now. Like we're in fucking Mythbusters territory.
This
What
felt,
happened?
you're right. It felt like the content programmer of all of Shark Week had certain ideas that they wanted to hit, and they're just like giving out cards to each of the different show. Like, okay, Monsters of the Cod, here are things you have to do, like this. Okay, we got one thing about Lionfish, Jackass, you guys got to do this one. Sorry, but for 2.0, like, you got to just get this experiment out of the way because someone wants to see it, make it funny, whatever. It felt kind of out of place, but from that scientific perspective, I actually was excited about it. Like, I don't mind a little bit of education in this. It was a little bit short-lived, I guess, but it turns out sharks like lionfish. And I kind of would have thought that they'd take a bite and spit it out. You know, it's one of those weird defense mechanisms of an animal that, like, they have to be killed in order to dissuade the animal from eating them, which would be the shittiest defense in the world, especially if it's coming from something like a shark. But the shark ate him. Chris, did you know that they would do that?
I thought for sure they wouldn't. Like,
Oh, really?
I figured they knew, like, this is not worth it.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
But I guess maybe they have some kind of, like, evolutionary stomach bile that could break down the venom or something along those lines, because...
Well, that's true. We didn't see what happened afterwards. All we know is that it probably really hurt the shark's mouth, which means, and I'm saying it here, confirmed, the lionfish is nature's Captain Crunch. Because these sharks are biting it, they're like, ouch! But also, yum.
Delicious. Yeah.
That tastes pretty damn good.
I need to go to the hospital.
Oh, man. Those things always fuck up the roof of your
I
mouth.
know.
those
Say,
bastards.
those lionfish, I know.
It's almost not even worth it. They should make a Captain Crunch cereal, though, with lionfish marshmallows in it. And
they actually have, like, they're made with a little bit of that poison.
Yeah, baby. Russian roulette. But yeah, I mean, that's that sketch. I don't have a whole lot to say on that one. Hey, one up for science, I guess. But this next one, fucking, if you want to talk about science and a shark's natural habitat, I think this gets pretty close. This is the shark disco. Because I don't know about you, if you've just been out scuba diving, and those disco balls, they're fucking everywhere down there.
They are everywhere. I do know that most clubs that play disco also do have a ton of predators in them, so this feels right at home. Yeah.
Connecting the dots. I like this. All right. So they put a cage down.
How do you know
in the
that,
water.
Mikey?
Well, because I'm not allowed in them anymore, and that's why they tell me.
Oh, no, Mikey was on this show this one time. I think it's called To Catch a Predator. Yeah,
Hey,
that's the one.
Guess who's still
Sit
free,
down,
baby?
Mikey. Take a seat.
Guess who's still
Take a
free?
seat, Mikey.
You escaped.
Did he just not take a seat? Is that all?
Yeah,
it
he's
took?
like, take a seat.
You
I'm
just
like,
didn't take a
fuck
seat?
you.
I'm not sitting. All right.
I'm not taking a seat.
Here's
You're
the
like,
thing.
you're
I
free.
actually did just want to play video games. Like, none of my friends will do it. That's like, I need to find young kids to play video games with me.
Yeah, they got so much more free time. It's not even fair.
Mm.
Listen, the cage goes in the water, and as the sun is going down, this is a bit of a nighttime dive. I like the spin on things. Jasper and Knoxville are going down there, shark diving at night. Knoxville's first time diving. So there you go. Something, little bonus there for you. But I like that they dressed up in like 70s disco attire for this. And I also got to give them props because I kind of thought, oh, they're just going to go down in the cage and do the whole, thing that Poopies did with the slime, just kind of gawk at the sharks. But in no time at all, they're opening the hatch and they're getting in there, pulling off dance moves, throwing each other up in the air and shit.
It didn't seem like that was planned, right? Like I think and I know I just said I don't like cage dives, but this one was kind of cool, a little bit. Like, if you're going to do a cage dive, do one and make it really different and really cool. And it felt like they had a good idea. And the fact that they went out of the cage after, that felt unplanned. And I liked that about it. This was one of the better ones, I think. I almost think they should have ended it with this one. I know the thesis of Shark Week this time around was let's get Poopies back in the water and get him used to the sharks again. But instead we've got them dancing disco. That's kind of just all we got.
Chris,
cool,
any thoughts
on
on this one?
You guys basically said it. Like, it is, it was nice to see them out of the cage. At least they jazzed it up a little bit. It definitely was one of the more memorable moments. But even at that, it was missing something. It was definitely something missing.
They don't have a bullet put on any of these, like, or a button put on it. Like, hey, here's the big thing. That's the final moment. I do think though that the bravery it takes to stay in a small illuminated area where there's if you picture yourself down there, there's a black wall and you don't know where the sharks are going to come from, but they're going to come from there. You don't know if there's one or if there's 50. That would be scary as hell.
Yeah, it's almost better to be in the dark without the light,
Honestly.
because your eyes kind of will adjust to it, and you're just in the same thing. It's like I was driving home from the cottage last night, and like when it was late at night, when the cars were coming this way, for like the second that light would take away my vision of like going forward. So thinking about that, it's like you literally exactly as you described it. That kind of adds a big punch in my mind, because that would be fucking so terrifying.
But
it's
that's
like you can see around you.
But that's not what they focused on either. You have to intuit that. So it's like, guys, like, find a through line for these stunts. I don't know.
That's very true.
I feel like you could have got artistic with that shot and had like a cameraman swimming around them, like in the distance, kind of just, you see like a little illuminated, patch in the darkness, and just kind of swimming around like a shark perspective,
Oh,
cool. Something like that. They could have played up to it a little bit more, but yeah.
The ADR in that scene would have been like, "Oh my God, the shark's watching us from out there," and we've been like, "No, you obviously didn't strap a fucking camera to a shark's head." Like,
and then the shark gets on the radio and is just like,
"I'm gonna get you." He's speaking like fucking Snacker from Banjo-Kazooie. He's like, from Treasure Trove Cove. Now, is that a cut anyone listening to this podcast will get?
I do.
Yeah, the scariest video game character of all time
in that video game.
That's Snacker the Shark. Yeah.
I was actually getting a little skeptical about the ADR radio there when the marine biologist came on and said, "Hey guys, I don't know if you heard yet, but Justin Bieber has a new single streaming now on Spotify exclusively."
Yes.
Did you hear that yet? Yeah, that's a real banger, Joe.
Yeah,
real
that
banger.
was honestly, they were one step removed from something like that. Like that doesn't, like, you can say that, and I bet you some people are listening were like, "Oh, I didn't catch that," but that kind of rings a bell. Like it does feel on brand with everything we saw.
Totally. And speaking of being on brand, they saved, I think, the most on brand sketch of this whole series for last, appropriately enough. This is Poopy's redemption, the big finale. So he's starting to feel better after his first outing, back into the water in the shark cage, but he needs something a little bit more. His confidence is still a little shook, so let's get him in the water. This is Poopy's big dive. This is all happening when a thunderstorm is on the coast, starting to just move into their location. Things are looking a little grim out there. The skies are black. But regardless, Poopy's had the courage to come back for Shark Week, not be afraid of the water, says Pontius here. So everybody seems to be really proud of him at this point, that he's stepping up. And again, for a guy who's like pretty new to the cast at this point, I think he's really impressing everybody with how he's handling everything. It's pretty gnarly.
I think so. I
think the opposite.
I agree.
Really? In this specifically. It's like everybody, like Mikey keeps bringing up, Johny doesn't seem to be... Like, he's like looking for more. Johny knows what sells, right?
100%.
And I think this whole, and you know what? We're kind of giving him shit for it, to be honest. We're like, oh yeah, you got to be more sensitive, or you got to be understanding, and Pontius is coming in nurturing. But this is maybe the worst Jackass thing that's ever been put out.
True.
And his frustration and his intensity trying to really haggle this all coming through. Yeah. I mean, maybe that's because he knew it deep down what was going on.
It's a good point. Like
when we're coming full circle, I didn't think about that till just now, and you know what I mean? Like
I said it last episode. I said it last episode that Knoxville definitely feels frustrated with Poopies. It seems like he's frustrated. I didn't pick up on it as much from the rest of the cast, but we talk all the time about like Knoxville's now producer level. Like he's up there with Tremaine. He makes more money than everyone. He also, was probably the best cast member consistently throughout all of Jackass, best in terms of like the number of things he was willing to do and put his body through. So it's like, yeah, he's kind of earned it. You can't be upset with him. Like you said, he knows what sells, and he probably feels like, holy shit, I agreed to come here to do this, and this is going to be like, you can't tell me he didn't know this was going to be a little cheesy.
Yeah. And that doesn't take away from Poopies having legitimate fear of what's going on by any stretch of the imagination. We're just speaking from like an outside perspective where it's like, when you're watching things, this isn't the dynamic that I like. This just it didn't really work itself out. Like I'm so happy that he was able to go into the water. Get over that fear. It'd be like me throwing me into a snake pit. I would never fucking do it. I'm too much of a pussy for that shit. You know what I mean? Especially
that's why you're not on Jackass too, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Fair enough. Touche. But yeah, like it's nice to see it come full circle. But
yeah.
But you know what I mean?
It's. Same place as last year. He's going to go back to where it all happened, where the disaster occurred, and basically he's just diving. Like, we're just basically going to interact, but no cage or anything this time. And I don't know, like the crew's down there with him. It's not just Poopies. I like that there's a variety of guys, but other than being naturally a little hesitant to go down, they get down there and then things seem fine. They swim around for a while, and we kind of just get our final shots of the episode. And, he's a little scared, but I don't know. There wasn't any big payoff for it, I'm saying.
There wasn't. The fact that the Jackass 2.0, which every time they've done things, they've usually ramped it up. The last sketch, I'm sorry that it's, like you said, Mikey, it's part of the thesis, and I'm not trying to knock, like, what it meant to Poopies as himself. But from the outside in, do you know, like, 90-year-old, like, couples who are, like, in, like, the Florida Keys can, like, go and do this shark diving excursion? Yeah. Like, it's like a cruise ship excursion. This is so dumbed down. These sharks know, like, it's like literally anybody could do it. Like, and tons of people do all the time. Like, they go to the specific spot. The sharks know they get fed. It's just this thing they've been doing forever. And it's like, that's how you end a whole thing. That, like, that's the antithesis of everything, or the climax.
It's
like, that, it just doesn't do it for me.
It's literally the same as the Poopy stunt when he's like the Hagfish Slime one, minus the cage, with more members of Jackass, just like sitting on the bottom of the ocean with sharks around them. And here's the thing that bothers me about it. I've seen this happen in tourist videos, like you said, Chris. I've seen it happen in Shark Week before. I've seen it happen in Discovery, even outside of Shark Week. I've seen this kind of thing happen all the time. You do not bring the Jackass crew to your show so that they can do the things we've already seen. You bring them to the show so they do things we've never seen before. Otherwise, what the fuck are you paying for? Why didn't they, even in post, even if they were filming this with the thesis of we're going to get Poopies back in the water, why didn't they in post cut this where the cage dive feeds straight into this stunt, get the Poopies narrative out of the way? Because that wasn't good enough to base Shark Week around, and then go on and do your weird ass stunts and make us laugh. Like, it just felt like there was too much around this. And if this is the climax, it felt all for naught. It was very disappointing.
I gotta ask then, because you bring up a good point. If this could have been re-edited, what would you guys have put out of everything we've seen? What would you have saved for the very end? What's the best part of this to you?
The disco with everyone involved. I think that's cool enough. I think, start it in the cage.
I'm thinking, like, out of what we saw, though, what do you think they should have edited and put in the end? I like your idea, though, but like, if you had to restructure it and redo the edit,
then
out of all the stunts,
even still, I would say the disco, because it's Johny Knoxville's first ever dive. You might as well end with something big like that. They had enough there. I feel like that could have kind of worked, but here's how they should have done that stunt. The cage, like, they've made custom cages. We saw it. Make the cage a disco ball. They get out of the disco ball. The disco ball keeps spinning above them, and they're dancing underneath.
Even better, the cage is down there, and when they're in the cage, have whoever's on the boat lift the fucking cage up so the cage is fucking gone and they don't see it coming. That is a fucking Jackass fucking
stunt,
bit. If I've ever, that's like all the, like the bear. It's like, oh yeah, you're getting covered in honey. Oh, there's a bear now.
Yes.
Oh, you're sitting here cage diving. Now you don't have a cage. Right. Have fucking fun, boys, and try and fucking put on a straight face while you're doing your disco dance while your fucking cage is gone, and have them have to figure that out on the spot. Yeah. You know what I mean? If you're going to get out anyways, the same danger's there. You might as well add that element of surprise and that having them trying to work through the problems in the midst of something scary going on.
It's a good question, Jay. What about you? What would you, like, I guess we're asking, like, what is your favorite or biggest moment of this? What would you choose?
In a way, we are. Okay. So, again, before I say that, I think you're right again, Mikey, in the sense that they shouldn't have played up so much in the, hey, this is like a Poopies redemption thing, if at the end it wasn't going to pay off.
Yeah.
And again, maybe they were hoping, before they shot, that it was going to pay off in some way, and then it just didn't. They're like, well, we just have to go with what we've got.
Yes.
Like, maybe they were kind of hoping Poopies would panic. And I mean, they're not saying they want him to suffer, but in a way you kind of do to get better stuff on camera. That's kind of a toss up. So maybe they just didn't get what they wanted. But I think if I had to restructure this whole thing, I would probably take your side and say, like, play down that Poopies thing a little bit and maybe just make that one segment in the whole thing instead of the whole reason we're here. And then at the end, I probably would have put in the dark shark in the raft, because I think that was the funniest part for me personally, just because they played a classic Jackass stunt that everybody remembers on someone who was fresh to it and wasn't prepared for what was to happen. And I think that probably out of everything went over the best.
Yeah. That's a good
with the
point.
shock collar
That
and
could have been
everything.
good. What about like if we're talking about a Poopy stunt that could have worked? Because it's about him making peace with the sharks. Send him down there with even like a fucking nurse shark and have a way for him to shake fins with it. Like give him a giant like shark fin and have him shake hands with it, or so, like get him to interact, get him to do something, make him the center of it. Maybe he didn't want to do something. I don't know, but yeah, this just felt like a big mess.
Or even have him at the end surfing again.
Sure, yeah.
Something that tugs on our heartstrings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The guy got over his
There you
fear,
go.
and you see him just fucking crashing a nice barrel out in the ocean.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, there's some closure here. This was just,
Good point.
Yeah.
you know, like it's like, I don't think that he got over his fear from being dead.
No.
Like, it's like, you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like, just have something
Yeah, I
along
agree.
those lines, you know, or something different, or don't play that
It
narrative.
felt
Who
just
knows?
half
But
baked
it's
in
just
general.
whatever they
If
did didn't
we
work.
can
Yeah.
sit here as three non-writers and think of some pretty mediocre ideas that still would be better, like they could have thought of something better. Have him
Yeah,
surfing in
I'll
a shark
give you-
suit. Who knows? Like,
Yeah. I'll give you another
Yeah.
one right now. Why was this not Dark Shark Week?
right?
They could have just focused it around him and did stunts involving
That
him.
would've
'cause
been
That would have been way
he's
better.
always so entertaining to watch. I just feel like, you know,
Dark
That could've
Shark
worked.
Week. Oh my god! Yeah, it's just, you put him like just make him jump off the fucking boat in the middle of the ocean. I'm gonna be laughing harder than these elaborate plans that they have. Like just seeing him panic, even if there isn't a fucking
Yeah.
shark around,
yeah.
and trying to climb in, and then having the boat go a little bit, have him swim to the boat, and the boat go a little bit. Just
But
like
it-
anything like that would be so
It
much
felt
better
like
than all this.
the heavy hand of Discovery was behind this, telling them that they had to have a certain narrative, they had to do it a certain way, and then the heavy bags of money that they offered the Jackass crew probably persuaded them to do it a certain way. But that's kind of it. In terms of
That's it.
stunts, do you guys want to get into our MVPs and LVPs? We can go over the whole Shark Week, maybe.
Yeah, let's go real quick here. Yeah, if you want to do MVP first, I might as well just jump in. One person that keeps standing out to me, and I didn't really anticipate to pick him, but I think it's Wee Man, because every time I saw him on camera, he was always having a good time out there, always smiling. And you guys said at the beginning of part 1, he got more exposure than he does normally. This was kind of his show in a lot of ways. I agree. And I keep thinking back to the eel sketch where he's in with the electric eel. And just like, I don't know, for some reason, he kind of, he was what's the word I'm looking for? He was the star here. He like really, he had his moments, and yeah, I don't really have to justify it any more than that. I think he just did a good job.
I love it. And I'm just going to jump in and say he's mine as well. I think the two best people in Shark Week were Chris Pontius, who I mentioned was in the water for just about every stunt, even if he weren't the center of it. He produced a lot of this. He did his best to put it all together. I know we didn't necessarily love what happened, but he was doing his best. And I loved his energy. He was my MVP in last week's episode. I'm going to give it to Wee Man in this one as well. His energy and more so for just Shark Week. I think we haven't seen that energy from Wee Man in a long time, and it really makes me happy to know he's still in it.
I'm going out of left field over here right now because I didn't think about this until as we were kind of digesting this and talking amongst ourselves. I'm giving it to Knoxville
Oh,
because just the sheer idea of, as we're like thinking about this, realizing he was not happy with this, and he was, number one, give him credit for his first shark dive ever at nighttime in that situation. Cool. But really trying to push the pace of things. And as we're looking at it before and it sounded uncomfortable potentially, or it seemed uncomfortable, the more that I really think about it, it's his absolute commitment over anything to make a good Jackass product. I'm kind of surprised he even let this come out, to be completely honest. But you know what? Like we said, you know what? They've done this. They need to get some money. They need to do some things because they're not, you know, like we all think that they're crazy millionaires and all these guys are. That's not the case, you know? So him just having that directorial and you know what I'm saying?
trying
You know, like, he's
to be
just-
a choreographer, knowing that he's being pigeonholed and his wings have been clipped. I get it.
And seeing the frustration from him, like it was very clear he was frustrated, it seemed. So, you know, he's putting on that smile, but just, yeah, I like the fact that when you boil it down, you see that, and you could tell he wasn't a happy camper, and he was trying his best. Even if it doesn't work out sometimes.
That's a really
still
good
great.
point. Jay, what about your LVP?
LVP for this one, Pamela Lowe. Pamela Lowe.
Who is that?
Pamela Lowe is the granddaughter of Luelelo, who back in 1963 recalls her grandmama serving her a recipe of brown sugar and butter over a bed of rice. Splash a little milk in there, and you have inspiration, my friends. Pamela Lowe would go on to become the flavorist for Quaker Oats Company and developed the original recipe for Captain Crunch cereal. Today, Pamela Lowe.
Fucking God, dude. I love
LVP.
it. Man, it is not often that you take us for a walk and land it like that. I very much appreciate that. That was really good. Okay, I was going to go something similar. Not Pamela Lowe. I was going to go Adrian Gore. And Adrian Gore is the CEO of Discovery Limited because he had to have had a hand in the way in which this was orchestrated. He's the money behind Discovery. And he's deciding what gets green lit, and he's probably the one who clipped the wings. I don't know why I keep using bird metaphors in a Shark Week analogy, but
Because they like to eat birds.
Because they like to eat birds. Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. But yeah, clearly just him as a placeholder. Because look, sometimes we need to hold CEOs accountable, take away their golden parachutes and shoots and hold their feet to the fire. And I think he's got to be the one to answer for what the fuck just happened with Shark Week 2.0.
Yeah, Shark Week in general was my LVP here because it's like as much as Jackass is getting dumbed down and their wings clipped, so to speak.
Goddamn bird.
Shark Week itself is compromising itself in its science by like doing something like this. They had it. It was a great idea. I hate how they're like every night there's some kind of celebrity doing something. Practical Jokers doing this. You know, fucking bring it back to what it is, man. Like I know what they're trying to do, but the people that really like Shark Week don't give a fuck about that, all that razzle dazzle, you know? Like you hit it well with Jackass the first time. You should have left it at that.
Or just know that if you're doing that, you have to let them bring their own flavor to it. Because I think it's okay as a palate cleanse. It doesn't have to be all science all the time. I like the fact that there are some other options. But if that's the case, let them be an antidote to all the science in Shark Week. Let them be something a little bit different, because that's not what we got here. We got it all mixed and muddled up in a recipe much, much worse than the Captain Crunch recipe.
Yeah. And hey, if you want to watch this one, maybe set your expectations a little lower and you might have some fun. There's some moments here, but overall, a little heavy-handed on the Discovery side. And I think, Mikey, you made a good point. If you're paying these guys to be here, maybe make that a little more worth your time and money. But overall, if you're just looking for a day out at the beach with the Jackass guys and you just want to see them doing some shit, okay, it might be...
Watch the first one.
Yeah, there you go. We'll end on that.
Like, there's a better version of this.
So,
a way better version.
If you want to find us, don't forget we are on the social media webiverse at Jackast Pod, Instagram, Twitter, and don't forget TikTok now as well, baby.
Hell yeah!
Fuck yeah.
Always at Jackass Pod. And just a little correction. Adrian Gore is the CEO of Discovery Holdings, which is a health insurance company. Has nothing to do with this. I just looked that up, and it's still his fault, maybe. Yeah. So I apologize to Adrian Gore and all the work he's doing for health benefits, but he's not the one in my crosshairs today.
All right. And on that note, until we defame and get our facts wrong next week, we'll see you. Till then, I guess. Hey, it's a big surprise. We don't even know what we're doing next week. So,
tune in to find out, babies.
Tune in to find out. Until then, bye. I'm Jason Wellwood.
Bye. I'm Mikey Aaronworth.
Bye. I'm Mikey Aaronworth, and this has been Jackast.
Furnished by Sad Styles Productions.
Get into it.